Moore goes on to argue the following.
If there were no carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere, the Earth would be a dead planet, period. Talk about catastrophic climate change. Take away CO2 and you'd have it. And yet the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has deemed this essential ingredient for life a pollutant. But how can something that makes life possible be bad?
Yes, some greenhouse gases are good for the planet, because it warms it to an appropriate level for liquid water and the life that exists here. However, unless Al Gore has gone completely mad, nobody is calling for the complete removal of all greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. And just as there's such a thing as too little a concentration of greenhouse gases, there's obviously such a thing as too high a concentration. If we jacked up the greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere by 1,000 times, the temperature on the planet would skyrocket, and virtually all life on Earth would quickly become extinct. How can something that makes life possible be bad? Water makes life possible. You can also drown in water. Oxygen makes aerobic life possible. If humans breathe too high a concentration of oxygen, however, they'll soon develop irreversible lung damage and they might even die. The sun makes life on Earth possible. Move our planet 100 times closer to the sun, and it will quickly become a scorching hot, inhospitable wasteland for virtually all of the life that used to exist here. We could go on in this manner until we get so bored that we start to sound like Patrick Moore. Yes, the appropriate amount of something can cause life to flourish. In excess of that same thing, however, can cause it to quickly die out. This is something that Moore concedes in principle, but he rejects the idea that CO2 today is anywhere near that level.
Can you have too much of it? In theory, yes. That's what climate alarmists say is happening now. CO2 levels are getting too high. Are they right? Well, if we look at the big picture, we find something surprising. For most of the history of life on Earth, carbon dioxide has been present in the atmosphere at much higher levels than it is today. During the Cambrian explosion, when multicellular life first came on the scene, CO2 levels were as much as 10 times higher than they are today. From a big picture perspective, we're actually living in a low carbon dioxide era.
Yes, CO2 levels have been higher in the past, but the organisms that lived back then were adapted to these higher levels. And as we can see in this graph produced by Alpine Analytics, when the levels fluctuated over time, for the most part this happened relatively gradually, at least over a period of several thousand years, if not much longer. Compare CO2 fluctuations from the recent past with what's happening today. As we can see in this graph provided by NASA, contemporary CO2 increases are depicted as a virtually straight upward line. And this isn't just because they ran out of horizontal space on their graph. On a geological timescale, what's happening today is happening almost instantaneously, and it's therefore going to be very difficult for much of life on Earth to adapt rapidly enough to withstand the accompanying environmental and temperature changes. I'm on Patreon. There's a link in the description if you'd like to support my content. I would really appreciate it. There's also social media links in there if you want to follow me there. I'm trying to build up some of those followings. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos if you haven't already. Hit the bell, hit the like button, post a fucking comments. All that fun stuff that's standard on YouTube. You know the fucking drill. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.